Hello, everyone. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. This is Sunday, March 1st, 2020. We are into the third month of 2020, and the third month that Field McConnell has been in jail in 2020. That's not forgetting the almost 2 months that Field McConnell has been in jail in 2019. Now, Field McConnell has retained an attorney, criminal defense attorney, who, by what can be determined so far, has not had a heck of a lot of experience in the kind of case that Field McConnell is involved in. The attorney is known largely for drug cases. And because of that, it seems rather interesting that Field McConnell would hire this attorney, or his son for that matter. But it may have to do with how much the lawyer costs, the fact that the lawyer is in an area where his son lives, and he simply looked at an ad, found a lawyer, talked to the lawyer said you take the case, and the rest is history. Who knows? But, at any rate, Bill McConnell has got himself a mainstream lawyer, bar certified lawyer. He didn't use these other crackpots out there. Kirk Pendergrass certainly is not anywhere near this case. He's already made all kinds of excuses as to why Field is finally doing the right thing, or something along those lines. But in the midst of all this, who gets involved in the Field McConnell manner? But Timothy Charles Homseth, of course. Now, there is a two-step process here. Now, as you all know, Timothy Homseth and a guy by the name of Agent Margaritaville have been getting into a little spat. Agent Margaritaville, like the rest of us, wants some kind of proof that there is such a thing as the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. And Agent Margaritaville, like the rest of us, would like to know where all the money's going that's being raised for both this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force and the Children's Crusade. Now, Timothy Homseth came out immediately and said that, I'm not seeking donations and so on and so forth, and we're not getting any money. Well, lo and behold, a picture of a GoFundMe appeared on a Twitter account, and it showed Timothy Charles Homseth, his big professional picture splashed on the GoFundMe page, and that they had obtained like $2,000 towards this horrific goal. So once again, it was proven that Tim Homseth is a liar. And he brushed it off. He made some crack about, well, if you don't believe me, tough shit. That's up to you. But I say it's true. And the relatively small number of backers that he has, his supporters, seem to be being fine with it, while others are beginning to question this fiasco. But, Tim Homseth has got his cash flow. And so he goes there. But Margaritaville doesn't seem to think that he should get away with it, and he's been hammering him almost on a daily basis recently. Last video was a day or so ago. And of course, he's threatening to call the authorities, which has already been done, but the more people that call, the merrier. But he's going to start calling the authorities and so on and so forth to try and get to the bottom of all this. And as a result of that, rather than put the concerns of everybody to rest, Tim Homseth makes a short video along with the article and basically says that Phil McConnell's lawyer should subpoena Margaritaville's phone records. Now, if Phil McConnell's lawyer were to do that, which would be rather difficult, by the way, they'd be running into a situation where they're trying to get the phone records of a foreign national. Agent Margaritaville is a Canadian. He's from New Brunswick, Canada, I believe. And generally, Canadian authorities don't take too kindly with frivolous requests for information on their citizens. And while I'm not an expert on how this sort of thing works, getting information on burner phones and the phone records of Mr. Margaritaville would be a little difficult. The former, because that's why people use burner phones in the first place. They don't want to get caught. And in the second place, it's a rather expensive process. We're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars. So, Timmy's going to find that, once again, he's made a stupid mistake. But again, it's just to appease his followers who seem to eat this stuff up like a bowl of cereal every morning. Because it's not going to happen. And there's also another problem that Tim Homseth doesn't seem to be aware, because Tim Homseth hasn't bothered to check the court records, and that is that Phil McConnell cannot have any contact with anybody on the internet. That's before or after the bond reduction, because the conditions set forth on his initial appearance says that you are not going to have any contact with the internet. Period. You can't own a cell phone with access to the internet, so on and so forth. And you can't contact the internet through 30 parties. So there's no way that Tim Homseth is going to be able to talk to Phil McConnell. If he sends Phil McConnell a letter, it's going to get intercepted. And so on and so forth. So Phil McConnell's been cut off from the Field Report. He's been cut off from the Children's Crusade. He's been cut off from all of it. And in 3 more days, there's this big thing down in Texas, and he ain't going to be there. So none of those books that he hoarded, the 500 books belonging to Timothy Homseth, is going to get sold. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with all them damn books. But they're not getting sold. They're sitting in boxes someplace. Now, another curious thing that's been going on for quite some time is Tim Homseth is back live streaming from the inside of his car. Not from a hotel room, not from a living room on a plush easy chair watching a 65-inch TV. He is live streaming from his car. This is an individual that is supposed to be 3 people away, or the 3rd person away, from the President of the United States. Person that is the official spokesperson for this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, and so on. And yet, he can't afford an apartment. He can't afford a hotel room. He has to keep live streaming from the inside of a car. Strangely enough, like I do. But he has to do it on Facebook because he's kicked off YouTube. Which is kind of funny. Yeah, but, here we have someone that's 3rd in line to the President of the United States, and he can't get on Facebook, or on YouTube, or on some other platforms. And yet, the people that follow this guy can't seem to get that through their head, that it just seems rather odd that this guy is supposed to be so damn important and have all this information is live streaming from the inside of a car. He can't afford a cell phone capable of streaming over the internet. Not even a burner phone. You can go down to Walmart and you can buy a Galaxy A10e, I think they call it, and it is capable of acting as a wireless hub for a PC, and you can live stream to the internet. And you can live stream from the damn phone, for that matter. You know, and all this BS about being able to be tracked is malarkey, because you can change that, and you're not, number one, you don't even have to sign up for internet access to use a cell phone over Wi-Fi. But he takes a laptop computer, and clearly that's what he's doing, because he likes to chat, and he live streams over the internet on Facebook in the parking lot of a McDonald's or wherever the hell he's using to steal their Wi-Fi. Now, Timmy's not too bright. Timmy says he's doing all this in order to prevent people from finding out where he is. Well, I got a little information for Tim Homestead. The federal authorities do monitor and are monitoring Tim Homestead as part of a criminal investigation. And Tim Homestead live streaming from a car in the parking lot of a restaurant or McDonald's or wherever the hell he's at is not going to prevent the authorities from knowing where he is, because they can track the IP address that is being used to transmit that signal to Facebook. And if he's using a router from a commercial establishment to live stream to Facebook, they're going to know about it. It's not that hard. Even an amateur hacker that knows the algorithm for Facebook can do that. And so when he gets on there and does these videos and it gets uploaded into Facebook, the authorities know where he's at, when he was there. And they can do pattern tracking to keep track of where he's going and, you know, when he's there and so on. You know, the authorities aren't dumb. And like I've said repeatedly, they're not going to get on the internet, or they're not going to release bulletins and say, hey, we're going after Tim Homestead. You know, we've got all this fancy dancy equipment packed into the back of a SUV, and we're just following Tim Homestead all over the place. They're not going to, number one, that's not the way they do it. And number two, they're not going to tell him. They're not going to tell Tim Homestead what they're doing. But I guarantee you that right now, there's somebody sitting in Western Pennsylvania examining that video, because that's what they do. They don't have to go and sit in a car and follow Tim Homestead around. They do it right from the comfort of a cubicle in a federal office, in a federal law enforcement building, and in this case, one that's in Western Pennsylvania. So that's what they're doing. They're keeping an eye on Timmy. And they're analyzing it, and they know exactly where Timmy is. They know who Timmy is staying with. It's no secret who he's staying with, and they know it. They've known from day one where Timmy is at. You know, these people are fooling themselves that they think they're going to go all over the country and hide from the authorities. They're not. There's too many different ways that the authorities are going to keep track of who you are, where you are, and when you're there. They're just gathering all the evidence. All these people bragging about this, that, and the other thing, and going to court over custody battles and all this other stuff. That's all foundational evidence for criminal charges when they come down the road. So Timothy Homestead gets on there and he makes that video. And he talks about burner phones and all this stuff. Well, Timothy Homestead knows all about burner phones. Says he was around people that used them to assist a woman evade the Denver authorities. And that's coming out. Because I'm going to jump for a moment to the case of Cynthia Abzug. Now, Cynthia's name came into the equation here last week over a custody battle between Sarah Dunklin and her estranged husband. And a number of interesting facts came out in the court papers. Now, what did not come out is that Cynthia Abzug is going to be testifying in that case. I believe she's going to write a sworn affidavit that's going to be submitted to the court in regards to that case. And Cynthia, little John, involvement in all this stuff is going to come out. Now, Abzug got into a little bit of a pickle because her estranged husband got word of her shenanigans involving Ms. Abzug and the Children's Crusade and all the parties involved, and the fact that there's a federal investigation going on right now and a state investigation, since the state of Colorado has also gotten involved in this mess, since it was their defendant that was being harbored by all these people. And that does include Tim Holdseth, by the way. So, we're going to... what happened is the husband said, all right, he got an emergency order from a judge to get the child retained in his custody until this thing could be straightened out. Well, Cynthia's father got involved to the point where he got a retired judge, of all things, to get involved and quash the order. And this would allow Cynthia Abzug to get custody of the child back. Now, that hearing is scheduled for later in March. And it is also part of the divorce that is currently going on between the two. And so we're going to see how that one goes. But there's going to be some interesting witnesses show up. And all these witnesses are going to authenticate all the evidence. And that is the massive amount of recordings made by Field McConnell and her on the Children's Crusade. And the it's going to be never mind. It's going to be proven that everything that's presented in the court is actual events. It's not hearsay. Because if they were just to put the evidence in the court, it could be considered hearsay evidence because they're recordings that was extracted off the internet. But by having someone come to court and saying, I personally heard these live, or I was there, I can vouch for these recordings, that will authenticate the recordings, and the hearsay goes away because now you have direct evidence. And one of the witnesses is going to be an officer of the court. So you can let that one sink in. And so Miss Dunklin has a very uphill battle. And there's a lot of internal dynamics going on in this little circus, but I'll just leave that alone for the time being. Other than it is my understanding that Sarah Dunklin's parents have not been showing up at these proceedings. The husband's parents have been showing up. And also, one of the reasons, likely, that Sarah Dunklin's parents haven't been showing up is because Mr. Dunklin is running for political office. He's in the middle of a primary because he wants to be in Congress, wants to be in the Senate specifically, I believe. You know, he might have a rough time with that because of what's going on with his daughter. So he's trying to keep as far away from his daughter as he can, although everybody in that state knows about it. So it's not like you can't hide from it. So I'm sure that people around town in that district have heard about this by now. You know, it's sparsely populated. It's one of these places where if you want to go eat somewhere, it's going to take you an hour to get there. People in that part of the state like to drive from here to there just to eat. You go to a movie, it takes you 45 minutes to go to a movie house. If you want to go get groceries, it takes 45 minutes to go to the grocery store. I mean, there's no such thing as a 7-Eleven on the corner. You have to drive up 45 minutes on these rural roads to get where you need to go. Kind of going back in time to what things were like 40, 50 years ago. And, you know, because of this, you know, these sparsely populated areas where everybody knows everybody else, the news about what Miss Dunklin has been up to is going to spread like wildfire. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Mr. Dunklin when the primary comes up. Because whoever gets primaried in that particular race is going to be the next senator because there is no opposition on the Democratic side. It's a very conservative area in that part of the state. So whoever wins the primary is going to win the election. More than likely. Unless a Democrat comes out of the woods to take advantage of this situation. I don't know if it's too late for someone to register, but it'd be interesting if somebody did. Anyway. So, Sarah Dunklin's going to have to face all this when it goes back to court again. The husband's going to refile the paperwork properly this time. And, you know, as far as the custody of the child, so all that's going to be taken care of. You know, so this is just going to be a rewind to the old tape. And there's a very, very good chance that Sarah Dunklin may permanently lose custody of her child. You know, some of the reasons she put in her current order that she managed to get signed again is that the child got kidnapped, and the child didn't get kidnapped. The judge ordered it. You know, she claims, oh, my husband went to the police department, swore out a complaint, and a judge found probable cause and issued the emergency order. And he got granted temporary custody of the child. You know, and of course that's the argument Bill McConnell has made for being in jail, that he was kidnapped by the evil police. Weird. And speaking of weird, you know, this is something that I really, you know, I heard this and I went, huh? But it's part of the proceeding. It's come out, even though it wasn't entered into court. It was discussed that it is alleged that Sarah Dunklin is breastfeeding her 8-year-old daughter. Now, I am certainly not an expert on female anatomy and lactating and all this stuff, and I never thought I'd be talking about it. But I just find this whole thing as somebody breastfeeding an 8-year-old child kind of weird. And I leave it to you guys. You know, this is just an interesting fact that came out. My personal opinion is I think it's a little weird. But if it's perfectly okay to go out there and breastfeed an 8-year-old child, that's less milk that you have to buy at the near, at your grocery store. You just make your own milk. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. But the Dunklin matter looks like it's on the road to be kind of interesting. Now, at least we're getting to see why Ms. Dunklin wanted this case sealed. Because it's a little on the weird side. As everything involved in this mess with this bunch is weird. Now, I am going to be rather curious to see what the reaction of Mr. Margaritaville is to this demand that Tim Holmes' lawyer get his phone records. I doubt he's concerned about it. Nobody's concerned about it because there's nothing going on. And they can't. The one thing that you have to understand is they just can't say, okay, we want all your phone records, dude. And I don't care if it means calling your girlfriend or your wife or your bank or what. The phone calls would have to be restricted to matters dealing with Bill McConnell and or the Children's Crusade. You cannot go on a fishing expedition for facts not in evidence. You have to be specific about what it is you're asking for. And I imagine there would be some process in place to filter the calls so that only the relevant calls on the list goes to the lawyer. And even then, there will be a stipulation that there are matters in there that can't be used in open court. But it's not going to happen anyway. Because it's irrelevant and immaterial. The prosecution would argue it. And so would anyone representing the social media apparatuses involved. And the phone carriers. Because Agent Margaritaville uses ProtoMail for his emails. And the carrier that's listed on the phone number of his doesn't take kindly to having people probing their customers. It's a PR thing. The customers want to be assured there's going to have a certain amount of privacy, so these carriers, through both legal reasons and as a matter of policy, are going to protect the privacy of their customers. They don't want to get a reputation of kowtowing to law enforcement every time something comes up, or a defendant's attorney in a legal matter. So they're going to fight like cats and dogs not to turn over these records. And that means that the meter is going to be running for this lawyer if he were to give into this sort of thing. And whoever is paying for this lawyer is going to see their legal bill increase. Because you're getting into, when you start requesting information like this, the discovery information of this type, it can get pretty damn expensive. Hundreds of dollars an hour. It might cost Phil McConnell's lawyer over $1,000 to get this information, and that's going to get passed on to Phil McConnell or whoever is paying the legal bill. So I don't think Phil McConnell's lawyer is going to be running around willy-nilly throwing discovery subpoenas at everybody. He's going to pick and choose what he's going to do based on what he has to work with. Now, he's already got discovery up to his earlobes in all the recordings, emails, photographs, and everything else that Fielden has managed to create. And he has to counter all that. And so I don't know what Tim Holmseth thinks is going to be accomplished by getting the phone records of a Canadian that simply wants to know where the hell all this money's going. It's come out, right, interestingly enough, in conversations and videos and all kinds of stuff that's floating around, that Agent Margaritaville actually created the Children's Crusade, created the business model. And this was through an entity known as the Children's Army, which is practically the same thing as the Children's Crusade. And that's how he operates it. Mr. Tangerine, or Margaritaville, first contacted Tim Holmseth, telling him he had a list of all these politicians and individuals and so forth that are involved in human trafficking and pedophilia. He's got hundreds of files and so on and so forth. And Timothy Holmseth, being a part of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, could immediately call the go-between between him and the President of the United States and say, hey, we got some guy up in Canada that claims to have all these files. How do you want to handle it? And under normal circumstances, if this was an actual task force that exists, the person from the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force would ask Timothy Holmseth for the contact information for this guy, and they would take over. There would be no need for Tim Holmseth to get involved at all. The Pentagon Pedophile Task Force would contact the guy directly through official channels, and they would handle it, as they're supposed to be doing this to begin with. Because this is where people that follow Tim Holmseth don't use their collective heads. And this is what I'm getting at here. Now, the Marines were supposed to have saved over 2,000 children in California. And Marines don't get involved in this kind of operation to begin with, but set that aside. Now, they got their information from somewhere. This just didn't come out of the moon. Somebody said, okay, you got 2,000 kids in a bunker out in California. So they went and got them, allegedly. The information came from somebody. There were files, evidence, surveillance, whatever. That's how this operation would have been discovered, and all these things that Randy and Tim keep talking about as they go on this sightseeing trip. This information is coming to somebody, and it's getting handled. And people are getting arrested and committing suicide and everything else because of this involvement in child trafficking and pedophilia. And this thing with California, or with Canada, would be no different. It's a tip. But what does Tim Holmseth do when the Margaritaville man calls him and says, I got all these files and I want to turn them over to you? I just need a phone number so I can talk to you. All he wants to do is talk to Tim. He doesn't want to hand him the files. Send him an email and have all these files attached, or send something in the mail through FedEx. He wants to talk to Tim. Say, hey, Tim, I got all these files. This is what I want to do. Who do I send these files to? That's all the guy wants to know. He may not have worded it that way, but that's basically what he wants. He wants to know who in the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force to turn these things over to. Who in Washington? Does he send them directly to the President of the United States? Does he send them to William Barr, the Attorney General? Who does he send all these files to? The Pentagon Pedophile Task Force is supposed to be the top dog when it comes to going after all these criminals. And so it would be logical that the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force is the one to handle all this. I mean, according to Tim Holmseth, they have a file on me in the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. So if they've got a file on me, why wouldn't they want all these other files on people a hell of a lot more important to me? Senators, congressmen, mayors, governors, police chiefs, judges, and all this. That'd be a gold mine for the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. That's their mission. That's why they were put into existence. And yet, what does Tim Holmseth do? Call the FBI. Call the RCMP. Don't send them to me. Of course he's not going to send them to you. He wants to know who to send them to. He wants to know who's in charge of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force so he can contact that individual and get the stuff sent to them. And as a second note, he also wants to know where the hell the money's going that is being given to the Children's Crusade. As required by law, by the way. And Tim Holmseth has rebuffed that. So, you got to use your thinking cap, folks, and realize that, number one, there is no such thing as the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. It does not exist and never did exist. Except maybe in the mind of Tim Holmseth and Randy Q. Erickson and Phil McConnell, who they managed to talk into this crap. Now, Agent Margaritaville is on Phil McConnell's side. When I first heard from this guy, I wasn't sure what to think. But as I got into studying the matter a little more, I may disagree with a lot of what this Margaritaville guy is doing, but I can assure you of this, he is on Phil McConnell's side. He wants Phil McConnell out of jail. He's doing everything he can to do it. I don't think he's going to succeed, but at least he's trying. And he's trying to repair the damage that Tim Holmseth has done to Phil McConnell. Because Margaritaville realizes that it's Tim Holmseth that caused all this crap. That it's Tim Holmseth that is responsible for Phil McConnell being in jail. Because he brought Phil McConnell into his fight. Until Phil McConnell met Timothy Holmseth and Randy Erickson and all these other people, he never heard of Kimberly Bocasio. He didn't care about Kimberly Bocasio. She's just some female lawyer from Florida. But Phil McConnell got groomed, got worked over by people around him that had the influence, that had compartmentalized him. And they talked him into this conspiracy theory about Kim Bocasio. And Jesus. And so here we are. So no matter what you think, excuse me, no matter what you think of Agent Margaritaville, he's a friendly when it comes to Phil McConnell. Those that support Phil McConnell might want to listen to Agent Margaritaville. You know, they had a past, both good and bad. I mean, they got into arguments, probably along the same lines that I got into with Kim Bocasio. And they understand each other. They have the same goal in mind. And so, Margaritaville is trying to keep an eye out for Phil McConnell. And so, anyone that supports Phil McConnell should support Agent Margaritaville in his effort to find out what the heck is going on between Tim Holmseth and Phil McConnell and do something to separate these people. I said this before. Tim Holmseth is what caused Phil McConnell to get into this situation in the first place. And people need to start to separate themselves from Tim Holmseth if they have any hope of salvaging the legacy of Phil McConnell. Now, Kim Bocasio did not want Phil McConnell to get into this situation. She feels sorry for Phil McConnell because of his age. But she's stuck because Phil McConnell did what he did. And in order to assure the safety and security of her family and to get on with her life, she has to do what she's doing. She doesn't like doing it. She said so quite a few times. That she doesn't like what's happening. But as long as there is an association between Tim Holmseth and Phil McConnell, there is a danger that Phil McConnell is just going to keep on doing what he's doing if he's ever given a break. And so she cannot afford to take that risk. She has to go through with the prosecution of Phil McConnell. And the state is now obligated because there has been probable cause that this crime took place, so they have to prosecute. They have to set an example. Phil McConnell threatened the life, safety, and security of an officer of the court, and they just can't let that go. That's a very severe practice to get into, because it's not just one specific officer of the court. He has threatened judges, lawyers, prosecutors, bankers, judges. I think I said judges. But he's threatened all these people. It's not just Kim Bocasio. Kim's case is what finally got him brought into jail. He has another problem to worry about if he gets out of this, because he's threatened a judge, allegedly, in his bank case. Every time I turn around, I learn that somebody else he's threatening. It's not only the banker, but a judge. So he's building up quite a track record. And he's creating problems for himself because they're next on the board. No matter what happens with this case in Florida, they're going to go after him. Because they'll use the evidence that's produced in the Florida case to prosecute him in these other cases. That's what happens. The authorities in certain jurisdictions will let one jurisdiction do all the homework, prosecute the defendant, and then they'll go and say, hey, can we see what you guys gathered in that court case? We want to look it over. And they'll look it over and they'll see, okay, we got stuff that we're going to use up here in Wisconsin. This guy's done some stuff up in Wisconsin, and the evidence in your case verifies it. And it's been vetted through the court, it was entered in as evidence and everything else. So they're going to say, okay, we're going to use all this in this new case. And the next thing you know, Phil McConnell's going to get charged with making death threats against an officer of the court in Wisconsin. And he'll get tried there. And he'll get prosecuted. And he'll serve the sentence concurrent to Florida. When he gets out of Florida, they'll just ship his ass up to Wisconsin and he'll have to serve time up there. So he's not off the hook. You know. And if he gets prosecuted in the Dunklin matter, with the conduct that she did in behalf of Cynthia Abzug, he's going to serve time for that. So someone needs to tell Phil McConnell's lawyer that they need to start making some deals. That Phil McConnell needs to turn state's evidence on all this crap out there, because his business up there in Wisconsin's supersedes this little mess he got himself into in Florida. Yeah, because he made death threats against a city judge and a bank manager in the middle of his foreclosure, and that's not going to sit well. And Florida will have done all of the foundational work. They will have gone and put his case on trial, authenticated all his evidence so it's no longer hearsay. And so by the time this goes to trial up in Wisconsin, you know, more than half of their work has been done for them by the state of Florida. And then, you know, then they're going to say, well, here we are facing 10 years in prison for making death threats against a sitting judge. Now what do you want to do? And then we have another count over here of threatening a bank manager. And, you know, we got threats being made all over the place. Terroristic threats. This, you know, and this is going to get into federal territory just on these threats alone. You know, and then there's all this other stuff going on with helping parents elude the CPS and giving them cars and weapons and shipping them all over the United States. These people have got that problem to worry about. So there's a bunch of people that have a lot of legal concerns that they're going to have to deal with over the next few weeks, months, and possibly the next couple of years. You know, these things just, yeah, it's just piling up like cow pies. Fertilizer for the wheat. So, you know, people need to start lawyering up, and they need to start doing what they need to do. I understand that there's a lot of deleting going on, that people are starting to delete emails, they're starting to delete all kinds of crap. But the problem is you can't delete from government investigators. You know, they're already wiretapped into your accounts. There's active, you know, sealed orders. I mean, you people like to talk about on the conspiracy side all these sealed indictments out there. Well, guess what? Your name's on some of them. Because a sealed indictment is just that. It's sealed. They don't tell who it is. It's name on that indictment. That's the purpose of a sealed indictment. So, your name is out there. And eventually, all that stuff that the government's been doing on surveillance is going to come out. That all those emails, all those phone calls that you deleted, they've already got them. They extracted them. Look at what happened to all the videos that were taken down off of Phil McConnell's channels and all that stuff that everybody went around and tried to do the copyright strikes on. They're up on a file sharing database right now, and they're being made available to the public and by extension to law enforcement. So nothing's been deleted, nothing's been removed from public sight. It's still out there. All you gotta do is find somebody with a BitChute link, and you can watch it all, listen to it all, see it all. You know, so nothing's getting hidden. You know, so any sigh of relief that somebody may have because they took down a YouTube channel or a Zoom channel or this channel or that channel, didn't work. It's all out there. And you've got eyewitnesses that have turned state's evidence. You know, Cynthia Abchuk, the woman with the 5 kids. And now I understand there's 4 more cases like Abchuk And these people are turning state's evidence. So now you have 5 witnesses that were part of this. You have 5 witnesses that can go to court and testify that Sarah Dunklin, Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, and even Chris Hallett and Kirk Pendergrass helped them evade justice. Somebody sent them money for a rundown hotel on a riverbank. On a hotel that doesn't require identification. That'll take cash. In some cases, they'll charge by the hour. Seedy places. You know, places infested with disease. You know, there's no telling what kind of diseases that people were exposed to being in these run-down, seedy old hotels in the middle of nowhere by a riverbank. What a life that must have been. And now, these people have found out that their situations have been made worse because they got involved with the likes of Field McConnell, Tim Holmseth, Sarah Dunklin, and these others. And they're mad. And they're going to get even, and they're going to get even in court. When they put their hand on the Bible and raise their right hand and just pledge to tell the truth, the whole and the truth, and nothing but the truth. So help them God. And it's all going to come out. And there's going to be jurors that are going to listen to all this. And they're going to see all the receipts for hotels and all this intercepted stuff from the government, all the emails, all the discussions, all the claims. It's going to be out there. And I pity the poor defense attorney that has to take all this on for these various individuals. And that brings me to the next subject. Now, there are recordings out there of Field McConnell advising people not to get lawyers. Field McConnell told, I believe it was Cynthia Abzug, not to go to a lawyer. Don't go to a lawyer. They're part of the Admiralty Court. They're this, they're that. It's part of the crooked system. Don't do it. Stay away from lawyers. So what does Field McConnell do? He gets himself an actual lawyer. Bar qualified lawyer. Licensed by the state of Florida. Has that Esquire thingy at the end of his name. After all this posturing and preaching and so on and so forth by Field, by Kirk Pendergrass, by Chris Hallett, and all these other people that say stay away from lawyers, don't use lawyers, defend yourself, do this, do that, file this paperwork, go to the legislature, don't go to the court, go to the legislature. That kind of worked out, didn't it? In the end, Bill McConnell got a lawyer. His son probably told him to do it. He says, look, I'll pay for that damn lawyer, but you're going to get a lawyer. You know, enough of this crap. Time for you to grow up, Dad. Can you imagine the talk that must have gone on between father and son, where the son had to lecture the father and say, look, Dad, you know, look at where all this has gotten you. This stuff you've been talking about for the last 10 years. You made claims against my aunt. You made claims against this completely strange woman down here in Florida who just happened to be a lawyer. That was real bright, Dad. Then you listen to these crackpots on the internet, Dad, I'm your son. You're supposed to guide me, not the other way around. I'm not supposed to have to sit here and have to babysit my father because of some idiotic stuff he's been doing on the internet. So, Dad, you're going to get my help. I'm going to get you out of this, but you're going to stay the hell off the internet like the court tells you to do. You're going to start obeying the law. You're going to do what your lawyer tells you to do. We're going to try and get you out of this mess, and you're going to get away from this stuff. Because I'm having to shell out my money to get you out of your little mess, Dad. So go to your room and behave. You know, I can imagine if the son did get involved like they said he did, that he's going to have to be the father and Field's going to have to be the son being babysat because of his mischief. And the son's going to have to put up with everything that's going to be done in this case. I don't know if the son realizes the kind of crap that he's gotten involved in because of his father. But I can imagine he's not going to be very happy about it because he's going to have to go to court unless he decides to stay away and listen to this crap. He's going to have to listen to what his father has done to this woman in Florida, to the mother of 3 children. This son of Field McConnell is a father himself. He has a very young child. And in the back of his mind, he's going to have to think, what if this was my wife and some stranger was on the internet saying that my wife is going to be executed and sent to Gitmo because of something that she is associated with, that she's not even associated with. That this guy that's never met his wife is saying these things. And he's going to realize the torment that Field has put this woman through. And he's going to say, Jesus, Dad, what the hell happened to you? All this military service, and you go around threatening the life of a woman. And you completely dismiss our court system. I mean, we fought. I went over to Afghanistan and fought for this system that you're now a part of. Dad, what the hell is the matter with you? That's what this son is going to think. That's what his son's going to say. If he's anyone of any modicum of common sense. You know, this is veteran against veteran. Guy's a business owner. He owns a company. Manufacturing company. He employs people. Imagine if his customers find out what his father did. Yeah, they're doing business with the son of a conspiracy theorist, a screwball from Wisconsin. Are they going to think that this guy thinks the same thing his father thinks? That they think that the vice president of the United States is trying to get some unemployed pizza delivery driver killed? And all this other stuff and this Pentagon pedophile task force? I mean, the son is in the military. He could find this stuff out. He could call former commanding officers and people he knows in the military and find out what the deal is with this task force, and he'd find out that that thing doesn't exist. I mean, you got someone in the military that can do the research to find out that his father's full of crap. His father is a crackpot, like all these crackpots on the internet. And he's going to think to himself, what the hell's happened to my father that he would get down this road? I mean, yeah, I knew he had this theory about airplanes, but to think that he has anything to do with a top secret task force in the United States government, I'm in the military. I know how these things work. That's what his son's going to be thinking. He's going to say, Dad, you've gone off the deep end. Dad, you need to go to a home somewhere. And if he's any kind of son, he's going to be on the phone to the siblings saying, look, we got to figure something out here. You know, our father has gone completely off the rails. He's nuts. He's hung around with these people. He's got himself in court right now for tormenting this woman he's never met. All because of some fantasy on the internet. I mean, we gotta get things under control. I mean, we're gonna lose our inheritance because of our father. I mean, the house, the cars, the farm, any money he's got in the bank, the kids are gonna lose all that. You know, that ought to make them real happy. The grandchildren aren't gonna get anything. You know, so Phil McConnell has cost his children their future. I mean, there's kids that could have gone to college on the money that Phil McConnell has tied up in his belongings. Denise has lost her future. She's going to lose the house. She's not going to have any, she's not going to come out of this financially. She'll be lucky to go back to Northern Ireland if she's in the United States with the clothes on her back. Because she ain't getting nothing. She's going down this stupid path of using these crackpot sovereign citizen lawyers and real estate consultants that don't know their ass from the hole in the ground. And she's going to lose. Because I can almost guarantee that the homeowner's insurance hasn't been paid. The back taxes haven't been paid. The only thing that's being paid is the mortgage, because that's probably an automatic thing. But none of this stuff has probably been done, and the house is gone. It's as good as gone, and everything that's in the house is going to go. That's the future. And then, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, some locals don't break in the house and start stealing stuff. That'll be a miracle. So that's the future of Phil McConnell. The trial of Phil McConnell has begun. Monday, we find out if his bond is reduced. And then we sit. Because, the calendar call is in May. And that'll be the next event. There might be something between the bond reduction and the calendar call. But we'll see. So everybody have a good Sunday. God bless you all. And until later, this is William K. Murtaugh, Witness 1. Have a good one.